Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Jimmy Mack is a renowned medical intuitive and spiritual life coach who has taken, completed, and even mastered a variety of healing modalities. After a near-death experience, he was shown and developed a simpler way to create healing and profound changes, now known as My Liquid Fish. He works with clients in person, on the phone, and over Skype worldwide, accessing energetic powers and co-creating changes that you can actually feel. Call in now to reserve your spot on the switchboard. The call-in number is 713-955-0594. Press 1 if you would like to ask Jimmy Mack a question. Enjoy this 1 hour of profound healing.
Hey everybody, it's Jimmy Mack coming to you live from Clearwater, Florida. Hope everybody's having a great beginning of the week and everything is going your way. We appreciate you joining us today and being on the call. And we always try and stir it up and get different folks to co-host with me. Last week, if you were interested in ADD, ADHD, and that sort of thing at all, you'll want to listen to the replay. That was with our guest, Linda Rosenbaum. And she was an author, speaker, of course, master dowser, and energy healer. So you have an interest in ADD, ADHD, or you have someone who's afflicted with that, you definitely want to catch the replay and reach out to her. And, of course, the first and third Wednesdays of the month, I'll be on Charlotte Spicer's show. That's Spiritual Insights. So look for us to be on that live. That's every first and third Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So always a lot going on. Little brief basic housekeeping, of course. We are going to have the release of the new book, A to Z Healing. That's coming out March 1st, which happens to be a Wednesday, and that's for our TGI Wednesday. People, if you're not already on my newsletter, you definitely want to be on that. So reach out at info@jimmymackhealing.com, and we send out a once a week, really a little e-letter, if you will, and there's audio in it, MP3s, things to listen to, funny comics. It's all free, folks. And so you definitely want to sign up for that so you can stay in the know. And again, we're going to do the book launch on Wednesday, March 1st. That's A to Z Healing. For those of you who don't already fish, you want to learn how ASAP, but it's a basic book that's A through Z Healing about all the different diseases, disorders, illnesses, that sort of thing. And so you would look up, let's say, bladder or headaches or migraines or gout or what have you, and it's going to have some basic tools in there for you and some statements on beliefs and things so that you could actually fish those out or correct those, release those. So much higher probability of things improving in that particular condition. So check that out when it comes out. Definitely sign up. Special guest next Tuesday is our resident psychic, of course, Reverend Debbie Deanspear. You'll want to join us for that next Tuesday at noon. She is a trans medium, and if you don't know what that is, it's communication with the dead. So it's very interesting to talk to people on the other side. She's told me profound things about my father, my brother, that only we knew. And so that's always the test in time to me. I find it very, very interesting, and it's just thrilling to hear all that. We had a caller last month, and she actually said to the caller, "Your mother Mary is here." So wow, right? Who does that? So I just find it fascinating and interesting, and that's why I promote it, bring it out to you guys, and then if you want to follow up for reading and whatnot, that's all good too. So stay in touch with us. Get on that weekly newsletter, and you'll know exactly what's going on. Really excited about today's guest. She's been a lifelong dear friend. My other friend's joke would be we've been friends since Moses wore short pants. so that tells you how long we go back. I don't want to. And her name is Dr. Charla Tempone. She's an Oriental medicine physician, acupuncturist. She's considered a master healer and utilizes applied kinesiology to help her patients create changes. She does a lot of physical medicine, and we'll get into that and talking about that a little bit. Also nutritional consulting, and it's really combined together in that. And she's someone who really cares about her patients and her practice. She's been practicing for decades. She can be found in Tampa, Florida, and that's www.cth, really it's ctholistic.solutions.com. Hey, Charla, how are you? Well, you can hear me.
Can you hear me, sir?
I can. How are you? Nice. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Hey, thanks for having me on the show. And it's nice to be here. And I hope to help and contribute to your audience any way I can. Of course, I stole that line from my friend Jimmy Mack.
There you go. I love it. Yeah, no, I'm thrilled for you to be on, of course. And, we go way back, and I love when we work together and at least chitty-chat on some of these issues and things. And I just find it very interesting. And, you've been in this game a long time, too. And so you've seen a lot. And it just feels like sometimes over time it's funny whoever presents themselves with a certain thing on their elbow or their whatever, after a while you're like, yeah, I've seen that 52 times. I know exactly what you got going on. And so in many ways, that's Spirit's gift, I think, to us to figure all that out. But tell folks basically about you and about your practice, what you're doing now, what you like to do.
What I like to do? Well, what I do, Jimmy,
what you've had. Yeah, what you've had luck in, I call it luck, but what you see a lot of, whether it's getting the beautiful women pregnant or elbows or bones or broken feet or nutritional or what you've really seen profound changes.
Well, I think I have a lot of good effect with gastrointestinal stuff. I was born with GI stuff that Western medicine could never really help me with, so it set me on my own path. And so it's something I feel passionate about, I empathize with, and have played with food, as I call it, for 20 plus years. And so I think that's something that I do pretty well with people in understanding the function of the digestion and how so many things play into that. I like helping people get out of pain. I don't like to see people in pain, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual. So whatever I can do, but I think starting with the guts and getting people out of physical pain and touch is so important, as we all know. And a lot of people don't get a lot of touch, and it really can change the immune system and create certain chemical responses in the body. So I really, really enjoy the hands-on work with my patients.
I love it. And, it's really a free-for-all, too, and you get so much mixed information. Address or at least chitty-chat a little bit about the difference really between the digestive enzymes, and then people are, always taking probiotics, or they're taking only probiotics and no digestive enzymes. And, Dr. Oz had a whole show on that, and it basically said you want to take them in between lunch and dinner, that kind of thing, three of them. But I think there's a lot of mystery behind that. So can you chitty-chat about that a little bit?
Certainly. Digestive enzymes are there to help us literally digest food. If we have what we call low digestive fire, enzymes can be very, very helpful. So when we take them with food, they're going to help break down food. Probiotics are what I call like fertilizer. So it helps the lining of the digestive tract help that friendly flora flourish, which I like to say just because it's fun. So it's more like the probiotics are fertilizer to the digestive tract all the way from the beginning of the tract to the end of the tract. And the digestive enzymes are there to really help break down and digest food so we can get the most benefit out of the nutrition in the food. If, however, we take digestive enzymes on an empty, they will help break down debris, which works more like an anti-inflammatory effect especially beneficial for constipation. I'll frequently have patients take digestive enzymes to clean up the debris of the system on an empty stomach. With food, digest food, empty stomach, digest debris. Probiotics are fertilizer for the terrain, as we call it, the terrain of the intestinal lining. So they're both beneficial. They're very specific, though. I usually recommend both at different times.
Right. I agree. I love it. Do you find that, I mean, you pretty much would muscle test or speak to that a little bit about how many folks should take, especially on an empty stomach. Are you ever concerned about them? I know back in the day, 20 plus years ago, a friend of ours, of course, had me taking a ton of Diapan 9, and I would credit that with, giving me an ulcer at the time. So maybe I was taking too much, who knows, or maybe I was going to get an ulcer no matter what, What's kind of the litmus test for how much to take as far as the digestive enzymes, let's say, on an empty stomach?
Well, Jimmy, it also depends upon which enzymes we're needing to support which digestive organ. So when we're talking about empty stomach, if we talk about the stomach itself and hydrochloric acid to help break down proteins, if we take hydrochloric acid on an empty stomach, it will definitely create burning, and it's not the most optimal time to take it. We take it when we eat protein, particularly complete proteins like meats and fish and eggs. Other enzymes would be like bile salts to help us break down fat. That's more for the gallbladder. So enzymes can be, there's many different enzymes that support different aspects of the gastrointestinal function. So my job is really to play detective and figure out which organ is under functioning to support that with which specific enzyme.
Got it. Yeah. And that's interesting too. And as you know, I've had my gallbladder taken out, so I know at times we've touched on even the ox bile and different things. So I just find that really interesting, because you certainly need that help. And then don't you feel like the pink salts or the Himalayan salts are a good thing as well?
Oh, the Himalayan salts are fabulous. I recommend them for numerous things. It's really not about salt. There's approximately 32 trace minerals in that Himalayan salt, which can act as electrolytes and mineral supply that is missing a little bit in our soil these days. Sometimes I have people take them in the morning just in water to support adrenal function. Adrenal function is one of the things that we deal with a lot because of the stressors of today. And so the Himalayan salts can be beneficial. And I like to use food, Jimmy, as medicine. Sometimes we need supplements, but if we can use food sources, it's always the best. Nature figured out how to balance out food. So we can take those great resources and utilize them. Yeah, I use the Himalayan salt frequently and vigorously.
Yeah, I love it. And, I would always tell people too, I'll probably refer them to you for more nutritional. Generally, in this fast food world, we're not getting enough minerals. Almost like you could throw the vitamins out the window, or the people might be taking the Flintstone stuff, you know what I mean? But you really don't need that. I find you need more minerals. They at least test well for me.
Oh, Jimmy, I think in my top 3 or 4 supplements that I think we should pretty much rotate on and off of for our whole lives are minerals. Like I said, the soil is missing minerals, and most people don't eat 6 to 8 helpings of vegetables a day. So, right?
That sounds
Except if you're like me or something, but I crave kale. What can I say? If I don't get enough green vegetables, I get cranky. So, but I still take minerals. I still take a mineral supplement. I still try to make sure to take the Himalayan salt, and any way I can get minerals. Yeah, it's one of my top 3 or 4 supplements for sure.
Love it. And then if you speak to the really the nutritional side, there's supplemental side to, let's say, the depression, the sadness, people that are, I guess, sorrow-filled, that sort of thing. Touch on that for a minute as far as what you like, GABA, different things, different supplements you might recommend. I mean, I know everybody's different, but you would test them out and figure out what works. But what are some of the basics that you found in your practice?
Right. Well, sometimes we want to find out initially one of my Charla-isms, Jimmy. I use those phrases that I've made up, my philosophies. One of my favorite Charla-isms is, the best medicine in the world does nothing if your diagnosis is wrong. So I want to figure out what's creating the imbalance. Is it really a neurochemical imbalance? Do we need the tryptophan and the serotonin and the GABA production? Or do we need to go to the gut? Do you know there are more neurochemicals in your gut than your brain? Digest that for a second. Right? So there's a huge gut and emotion response. So frequently I'll go to the gut and also determine, like you said, whether I need to calm the excitatory chemicals and give anti-anxiety things like GABA or theanine, or do I need to really elevate the mood and use things like the tryptophan? Also, B6 is really important because it helps some of those neurochemicals cross that blood-brain barrier. So we forget sometimes those micronutrients, the B vitamins in particular, which is one of my top 3 supplements. The B vitamins are used in every single process in the body. Function, detox, brain health, gut health. And so B vitamins are very specific. Sometimes I use herbs. Sometimes I like to use the homeopathic remedies for mood, Jimmy, because they absorb quickly. They don't interfere with other medications. And I can use a myriad of things that support the anxiety, the kind of melancholy like we're talking about. Really, grief is so underlying on everything. And there's a really fabulous homeopathic remedy called Ignatia. I'm going to spell this for the audience because it's really powerful. And if it's not the right one, it certainly won't hurt you. But I think there's a lot of underlying grief. Ignatia, IGNATIA. You can get this at your health food store, and it really helps it doesn't make the grief go away. It just takes the edge off the biochemistry. And I think that's really helpful. So I like the homeopathic remedies as well.
I love it. Yeah, I had a chiropractor friend over here on this side of the bay, and he's just wild about gut stuff and really concentrating on that and big on the kefir and like sauerkraut and really building the gut stuff. And here he is, cracking backs and necks, but he's huge on gut, like you had mentioned. So I find that fascinating.
Absolutely. We call those fermented foods. The sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha tea, and kefir milk. In this country, what we call it kefir. In Europe, they call it kefir. So you will hear it be called both, so as to not to confuse people when they go look in the health food store. But I keep kefir milk in the cupboard or in the refrigerator, actually, as well as always some fermented sauerkraut, kimchi. My husband and I really, if you have kimchi, everybody in the household should eat the kimchi. Very high in garlic. Yes, very, very, again, it's a prebiotic. It actually is part of the soiling of the terrain, like probiotics. So we can use food sources. This is what we were just talking about. It's a food source of probiotic. Like we talk about yogurt. Kefir milk is a fermented yogurt. So it's like yogurt on, I'd say steroids, but but it's yogurt times 2.
Very interesting. And what do you find also, and a lot of people will, to even the acupuncturists, of course, for accident work, neck and back, and just, are you steering more towards 1,000,000 needles, just a 4-point treatment? I mean, what do you find in your practice for that sort of thing? And speak to, if you would, regarding the applied kinesiology, and I know you've studied with some pretty big names. So if you could touch on that for a minute, I find that interesting.
Yes, the applied kinesiology is truly my passion and specialty. I have a special kind of a relationship with the applied kinesiology because it's very neurological, structural, and chemically based, so we can use it for many things. The first question in regards to acupuncture for injury, trauma, depends upon if it's acute or chronic. If the patient is actually large or small and what time of year it is. Believe it or not, the winter we use sometimes fewer needles than the summer. But fragile people, I would say, small, petite, we might even use fewer needles. I tend to be fairly conservative, and I will also include the cranial. And something I really wanted to touch upon today, which is appropriate at the moment with trauma, creates a lot of cortisol, creates stress. So what I was taught by a brilliant chiropractic neurologist is if we can't get the body to go into that parasympathetic, what I call the safe and warm, relaxed healing state, nothing else will really matter. We've got to get the body in a relaxed state. So we're all familiar, so that's where I will start with patients, is to get them out of that sympathetic, that fight or flight, into the parasympathetic. So we all can relate to stress, Jimmy. It's a very stressful time. And so cortisol is an adrenal hormone that we produce as a fight or flight response. And what happens, as we've all seen in the movies, when you truly are afraid for your life, and that stress response, all of the blood goes into the muscles for fighting or flighting. Therefore, you release the bowels and the bladder to lighten the load for flight. That's where some of those phrases came that you scared the poop out of me, right? And really, it's true. So when we live in a low-level stress, one of the first things to minimize is the digestion. There we go again. So we want to take the nervous system down into that safe parasympathetic system so the gut can function, but also healing and repair of a trauma such as a whiplash or a break or surgery, those things. It's really critical. We all could use a Jimmy session to get us in that calm Zen state. It's
right.
You know, we used to live in that state unless we were afraid. You know, we're all so high stress. The cortisol is really cranked up. We don't sleep well. Our appetite is off. Our digestion is off. We can't get into that healing, calm state unless we're, you know, doing a yoga class or having a cocktail, which isn't always bad, but it's not the way to get the body to remember how to go into that nice, calm state.
I find just coming to see you, and I know your patients would echo my thoughts, and that is, you know, just being there and leaving the phone in the car for an hour or two, you know, and just being on the table relaxing often will drop people into that state, no doubt. And so,
absolutely.
You know,
and like I said,
yeah.
The first thing I do are some techniques to get people into the parasympathetic so I can do some of my other work and get the nervous system. And, you know, Jimmy, the more often we get into that calm state, the easier it is for the body to go back there, to drop into that. So habituation, which is one of my new favorite words. We're all very habituated to thoughts, to diet, to patterns, you know, schedules and routine is good, but habituation, we want to flex. We want to remind the body how to calm, how to have fun. Remember having fun and playing?
Right.
Do we play outside anymore? We got to play. You know, that makes us giggle, and that creates some fabulous chemistry.
I find that's very true. And I tell everybody, and I need to listen to it myself, is we all need to have more fun. There's no doubt. Folks, we've got a lot of folks listening on the line. You know, if you want to raise your hand, hit 1, and we'll be glad to take any of your questions on healing and help you live here. live on the air. A lot of folks on hold and listening, and I'm sitting here taking notes. So I just find it so fascinating. Touch to what your practice is now, and I know you've been doing it a long time. What have you seen over time? In other words, are you seeing more and more just a variety of different things, everything from babies up to, I think you've got somebody close to 100 years old. Describe the practice and what you see day in and day out. Is it more GP-ish, internal medicine-ish? What do you see it as?
Yes, it's all over the board these days. What I see a lot of lately is people of all ages and genders having anxiety and insomnia. I do see a lot more children. I think the stress from the environment and chemicals and food sources. I treat a lot of kids with food allergies, and our food source isn't what it used to be. And then there's so many chemicals we give children that really interrupts function. So allergies, again, environmental issues with the toxins and insecticides and pesticides and everything in the environment. So I do a lot of allergies, whether it's airborne, digestive, and immunity, which goes right into, exposure.
Got it. Yeah. And then your age range is anything from children all the way up?
Oh, absolutely. I have numerous kids, anywhere from a year-old to 9, and I have a few teenagers. They're interesting because they want to really take hold of what, they don't. No, I'm not going to quit eating that, no matter how much it bothers me. So that instilling their will.
Wow.
Jimmy, it's interesting. There's a lot more women that seek alternative care and will look for ways to take care of themselves more than men. But I have a pretty high intake of men. The probably average age of my adults is 40 to 60. Those people were really looking to feel better, perform better, whether it's at work or, all the things and demands on our lives these days. That age group is really interested in taking better care of themselves, and they have some of the finances to eat better foods or have the time or understand the prioritizing of time to go work out or take some downtime with family and take a trip and all those important things that really make up life.
Love it. Yeah, and it's taken me 50 plus years to realize I got to set aside a little time for myself and almost pamper myself. We are such givers, and we're so into helping and contributing to others and go, and, here, take the shirt off my back. Oh, you like my Hawaiian shirt? Here it is, So I have learned over time to at least allow myself to would call it pampered. Most people would call it general maintenance, or even, getting acupuncture, getting the chiropractor to adjust your back or neck and that sort of thing. Even the massage guys over by you, whenever I come see you on the way home, I always go to that. And that's just amazing, to have these big, brawny Chinese guys beating up on you for a massage. Walk out,
it's really important.
Yeah, you walk out and you're like, oh my God, I feel like $1 million for days. It's like you can almost beat the skin out of you. Call it. So.
Well, and with so many people dealing with older parents these days, just as a reminder, that was a good point of, the healers taking care of themselves or the caretakers taking care of themselves. A phrase I've borrowed from my husband, who was in the Marine Corps for decades. He says, you have to be careful not to create two victims. So if we continue to give, then we give out. And so if I want to contribute and take care of my patients and be totally present and available and not, thinking about the pain I'm in or the fatigue and the blood sugar, I take care of myself as also a part of service to my patients. So the people taking care of older patients, if they will wear out if they don't take care of themselves also. That's it is a selfless act on some level.
Yeah, and my first book, How to Heal Yourself and Others Now, I have a little tiny page chapter in there. It's about the blue crabs. Anybody that's not familiar with the blue crabs, of course, they're up and down the southeast, all the way from Boston down to us and around to Texas and so forth. And if you put maybe a half dozen of them in a little bucket, they always try and climb out, and they'll literally try and climb out on top of each other. And one will eventually almost get to the top and almost out of the bucket, and the others down the bottom will reach up and yank it back down the bucket, and they all die. So my theory is called blue crab theory, right? So point is, we've got to really start taking better care of ourselves, because if, it's kind of the Buddhist modern saying is, you put your own oxygen mask on first, and then you help the elderly and the small children, because otherwise everybody's going to pass out, So definitely
it serves the greater good of all.
Yeah. And, and I tell everybody, I don't want to be a nut about it. I mean, if you break water, you break your arm, go to the hospital, don't call me, it's like ridiculous. But, if you're going to the same doctor over and over again, you're on your fifth try of different prescriptions, and nothing's working, and they're scratching their head in the exam room, boy, is that the time to reach out to us collectively and try alternative things. And I encourage people to do that. And so many people today, and just even this show alone is about giving people, more hope and at least some alternatives. So try some acupuncture, oriental medicine, herbs, chiropractic, my stuff, talking to the angels, whatever. You've got to, really push it all the way to the door to at least see about making improvement. I know, there's people that you've helped, I'm sure you can touch on, that were probably due for surgery or going to do back surgery or neck surgery. And, you've been able to, I'm sure, change a lot of that so they didn't have to do it. You find it's more just depends on the case. I mean, accident, shock, trauma, awe. I mean, what would you say about that?
Yes. In fact, I have a patient recently, early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and a lot of back pain. She went through numerous diagnostics and doctors and was planning to do surgery so that she could be done with surgery before she had kids. So I know her mother and had her come in, and I did my assessment, and I also do homeopathic injections that help with muscle spasms, joint inflammation, and things like this. So we did some of that, but I told her I wanted her to go see a chiropractic buddy of mine and let him give her another assessment. So he and I are working together. She has less pain, and she has no desire to have the surgery, but they had her lined up. And because we go and we believe. So my recommendation to everybody is, and like you were saying, Jimmy, we want to empower people. We want to empower people to ask questions and ask more questions and seek second and third opinions outside of our norm. And then you make your decision. Surgery sometimes, is necessary. I had a neck patient, a cervical bulge that was pushing in towards the spinal cord. And I told him if he got into a car accident or some trauma, he could become a quadriplegic. That case, I would maybe recommend the surgery, because the repercussion of a second injury could be, life-altering or death at that point. So we've saved a few gallbladders. As you know, we didn't get to save them all, Jimmy. Sorry, my friend.
Right.
but your offering really is what brought us to this day, isn't it?
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, definitely.
You're right.
Definitely.
So we appreciate your sacrifice there. And just to remind everybody that we were talking.
Yeah, when I look back on it now, I'm convinced more than anything it was really, obviously I had gallstones, but I look back on it now and I'm convinced it was food poisoning. The last thing I was dry heaving just to really gross the callers out and the listeners is scallions, and I had a Cobb salad. I'll never, as long as I live. And scallions, as you know, Lord in heaven only knows whether the guys preparing that washed their hands or what they did, but that was the last thing I was, throwing up and pooping out with scallions. So something was wrong there. And so I think if they saw one gallstone, they, if it's not picked picture perfect to the Western medicine. They're like, oh, that's got to come out. You know, if poor beautiful women with boobs, it's like, oh, that's the head of a pen. You know, that's abnormal. We got to cut that out. You know, we got to biopsy that immediately. You know, it's like, ugh. So a lot of times all they do is, you know, cut and take, you know, do prescriptions and hope it works out. And in many cases, don't get me wrong, if you got rebar hanging out of your shoulder, you need to go to the ER. Those are the guys that are going to, you know, take care of you and make that happen. Hey, let's grab a caller, 727. You're on live. Hi, how are you? What's your name? We know where you're calling from.
Hey, Charla. Hey, Jimmy.
Hello.
Hey.
It's Sarah.
What's going on?
P.
Hey.
Okay, I've been having wicked mood swings lately, and I'm just trying to figure out if it's a supplement that I'm taking that's causing it, or if my life's just too much. Like, I can't figure it out. Like, I could go from like crying to like fine to exhausted to a little depressed to fine to laughing, and I'm not really enjoying that ride right now.
Interestingly enough, Sarah, one of the phrases I've been using lately is "it's all too much," and that's what you just said. Did you have those mood swings before you started on some new supplements?
I think I've always had like a little bit, you know, but not like it's been lately. I mean, Jimmy knows my life lately has been a little bit like more. I need more ease, please.
What supplement do you think it is? What supplement do you instinctively believe it is?
I know there was one that we started like last summer when I noticed some of the change. It was taking like a lithium orotate at night and like some GABA with it to help me sleep because I don't sleep really great. And I kind of noticed the change like around that time when we did that. And we had also, I think we had also put in like kava, but we dropped that one out thinking that might have been it. But everything else was kind of the same, and I didn't know, like, could it be my birth control I'm taking that's making me moodier? Like, I have no idea. Like, I'm just trying to figure it out before I go to a doctor and get a mood stabilizer because it's really been, like, getting worse lately.
Yes. In fact, I was just about to ask you about your menstrual cycles. I don't want to ask you your age on air. However, birth control pills it says it in all that little literature you have that you probably never read, that fine print and 20 pages long, that you should really be on a B6 supplement. As I was saying earlier about B vitamins and precursors, and B6 helps some neurochemicals pass the blood-brain barrier. If you're taking birth control pills, it absolutely could be making a change and blocking pathways for these happy chemicals. So you should either be on a very good, maybe active B supplement, and I can explain that to the audience if you'd like later, but an active B vitamin, coenzymatic form of B vitamins, and see if that supports that. Think about changing or going off birth control or stopping everything altogether for a short time and see how you feel and see what's left.
Right.
But hormones are huge, and they will cycle. Again, we can cycle in our 20s, our 30s, our 40s. It's not just about, beginning our menstrual cycles in our teens and perimenopause, but there's numerous changes that go on in our body basically every 7 years. So it might be worth looking at the hormones, the regulation of your menses, what kind of birth control you're on, and maybe making sure to have a really good B vitamin.
Yeah, like I didn't know because I hit my late 40s a few weeks ago, and like I literally feel like in the last couple of weeks I've had a couple like, is it hot in here or is it just me kind of things? But I'm like, if I'm on birth control, I shouldn't really be having that.
No, Sarah, it's just you.
No, seriously. And people are like, no, we're fine. I'm like, oh, really? Already?
So that was my first instinct, is looking at the hormones. So late 40s, even if that's no major perimenopausal symptoms per se, I would look at adrenal, I would look at thyroid, I would look at the endocrine system in general. I'm right there with you, my dear. So that's what I would look at first. Maybe look at getting a hormone panel to include a little bit of the adrenal and thyroid. We want the whole endocrine system. We want the whole picture. And see where things are at. You could support either the adrenal or thyroid as precursors to reproductive hormones. Remember, adrenal is a precursor to all reproductive hormones. Again, we're going back to stressors and cortisol. So how well are you sleeping, Sarah?
Not very well. Like, I fall asleep okay, I just don't stay asleep.
Right. I would look at your adrenals, and I would find someone to do a nice hormone panel along, like I said, with the endocrine and looking at that. I'm a huge, huge fan of GABA, just like Jimmy is. I think we should put it in our water supply. But you didn't, right? Wouldn't that
like, do I need it more than at night? Like, is that why? Because I'm just so, like, highly wired lately? Like, I don't know.
Well, I would definitely think that more than once a day. But again, if we're not getting the right diagnostic, we're not getting the right treatment. You need to find out what's going on with the endocrine system. I would use GABA because it's still effective to keep the nervous system calm, but find out what's where the levels are at, especially at the late 40s. This is a shift time, right?
Yeah.
So, that's easy to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely, you're local, so you're in the Tampa Bay area, Sarah, so I'd definitely recommend, looking into seeing Charla, bring your supplement.
I've seen Charla. Charla's how I found you, Jimmy.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Now, you've got shifts, you got changes, and so you definitely want to go over there one day. She'll tell you laughingly, I'll bring just an absolute, shopping bag filled with supplements, and, because it's kind of the joke that two psychics meet in the middle of the road, and one says the other, you're fine, how am I, right?
Yeah.
And we overthink our supplements and things so much that, I trust her testing implicitly to really go, hey, do I really need this, Freddy's goat weed or whatever, and if not, then we test on priority from there. But what I get intuitively for you is definitely the birth control. It has nothing to do with GABA or lithium orotate. You'll have both of those naturally in your body already, and you're trying to strengthen that. You're under an incredible amount of stress. They're reminding me, you got a bunch of kids, you're seeing somebody, you got work, you got you basically got the trifecta of stress. You got young children, you've got a regular job, everybody's got an ex-spouse, and then somebody they're dating. So it's like, wow. Any
and
one of
my
those.
mom, don't forget my mom.
Elderly mother you're taking care of. So ta-da, it's like bases loaded and, grand slam, you've hit the ball right out of the park, so there you go.
Were you taking the birth control for birth control, or were you taking it to regulate your menses?
For birth control, I don't.
You're probably over that.
Get knocked up.
I would get rid of those birth control pills, Miss Sarah. Yeah, and I would start with that. And at this point, come back over. Let's do a simple panel and do some down regulation. But I think that's a big start because those hormones are an intrusion to an already hormonal situation in your late 40s. Right. So get a good B vitamin. Next cycle, try to get off that birth control. If this month is, not that any month is less stressful than others, I just usually don't recommend people to go off their hormones in November.
Right.
So we're in February, it's okay. Yeah, we don't want to do that during holiday time. So I would try that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and I'll get your number, Cheryl. I'll call and I'll get with you.
Yeah, and I definitely.
Voice is familiar. Good to hear your voice.
Definitely get that it's not any of the supplements you're taking. It's totally related to stress and then the birth control pills. And actually, it's birth control pills followed by all the stress. So if I had to pick only one thing, it's the birth control pills. Okay. And, if you have a bunch of choices, I don't know, as far as that goes. And even Charla would test you and figure out, well, yeah, this would be your best birth control pill if that's what you want to do, Right. I'm sure she'd work with that. But you test really clear with 0 birth control pills. So that's really what it is. I think hormonally it's kind of, it's hijacking you right now and you're already nervous in a car. It feels like there's the birth control pills are coming up to you and, carjacking you on top of it all. So good luck sleeping, right? It's like, come on. Yeah. So, you've got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of issues going on, and that's really what it is. But, yeah, I'd get over there, see her, just bring all your supplements and, let her knock that out, like she said, and, really get to the bottom of it. What she said was profound earlier, and it's just like if we don't have the right diagnosis, then, it doesn't matter what we do. So we appreciate you calling in, though, love. Thank you, and I hope everybody's doing okay. Yeah, anything we can help you with before you go?
No.
I'll work on anything you need. You good?
No, I think I'm good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling, love.
Bye.
Good to hear your voice.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Do some breathing.
Yeah. And that makes a difference too. I've never seen anybody or talked to anybody on the phone or Skype or in person that I haven't said to them, what are you doing? And they go, what do you mean, what am I doing? I go, well, are you working out? Are you doing yoga? Are you doing Tai Chi, Qigong? What are you doing? I'm not doing any of that. It's like, huh? You better be doing some of it. Swimming, tennis, I don't care what, but you got to get that strength out. I don't care if it's ballroom dancing. You better be doing something, several days a week just to break even, right?
Right. I do recall that patient. Sometimes, too, Jimmy, we forget the factor of pain. So pain increases cortisol. It interrupts a lot of different functions. And so if you have a lot of joint pain and exercise is difficult, playing tennis again and all those things we love, there's some amazing science about pranayama. Pranayama is the ancient Ayurvedic practice of breathing techniques. You can use the breath to downregulate cortisol. So one example would be you take however fast or slow you count, it doesn't matter. Take a 3 or 4 count in breath and a 7 or 8 count exhalation. And you do that for about 30 seconds, maybe even a minute, and it'll calm the nervous system. We can use, because we all shallow breathe when we're stressed out. You can hear it in the voice and people, so we need to go back to what we were given as our natural state and use the breath. Ayurvedic medicine is the oldest medicine. It's only been around 5,000 years. And really the breath work, you can raise or lower blood pressure. You can increase or decrease cortisol. I've worked with guys and gals going over to the Middle East, and I will counsel them on using the breath. So when they're literally under massive stress of being fired at, they can be present, and the breath will quickly bring you back into your body. When you start kind of getting overly stressed and can't focus, go back to your breath. The breath.
Breathe.
So Sarah, if you're still listening, I would do some of that breath. Lay down on the ground even. Go sit in a chair and look at the leaves on the trees and the clouds. Watch the clouds and just breathe. It sounds simple, Jimmy, but very profound.
It's harder than people realize. The other thing that helps me escape from all that, too, is if we just kind of lay the phone somewhere for a while, even if it's in the other room. We're all tethered to that nowadays, and we're also really tethered to and stuck on time. If you can just kind of release time for a little while, you and I both run by appointments, and the well-oiled machine, not our president's well-oiled machine, but our well-oiled machine of nonstop, morning, noon, and night stuff going on. And if you can kind of just release even what time is it right now, just for a little while, instead of racing in and out to the next thing, I think that's just sound advice, definitely. Hey, thanks so much for being on the show today. I love it. And I think just it's profound. I've written down some notes even for myself, and, I'm excited to have you on and talk about these things. It's a world of information, and it's just health is wealth, and people really need to be more in tune to all that and get with it. Let everybody know, Charla, how to get a hold of you. What's your website? What's your phone number to schedule? I know you're over in Tampa.
I am. I'm in South Tampa. The number for appointments is 813-873-7773. And the website is CT, which are my initials, Charla Tempone, CTHolisticSolutions.com. There's some information there on some of my philosophies, my services, the kinesiology, the nutrition. And I really appreciate you having me on. That was a lot of fun, and that was made my day, made me giggle, and brought lightness to my heart. And, you know, that's important for all of us right now.
Love it. And thanks for being on. We sure appreciate you, honey. And thanks for helping everybody and helping all your patients and being a contribution to the world. That's for sure. Hey, everybody. Thanks for dialing in today. You bet. And thanks for your time. And thanks, everybody, for listening. You can always catch a replay as well. You can find me info@jimmymackhealing.com. And I want to wish everybody that the rest of their life will be the best of their life and to make progress every day. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.